what's going on? We're back, and of course, we've got a couple of videos coming your way, and clearly, we're going to be starting with football here. It's just, it was actually a really, really interesting weekend this weekend with the divisional round having come and gone, and honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how often it is that the divisional round goes completely chalk, but it came really, really close with the exception of one particular contest, which happened to be the Washington Commanders, as they'll be facing off with the Philadelphia Eagles. But this is coming off what I gotta say has to be one of the most impressive outings I've seen from a lower seeded team in the playoffs in quite some time. Putting up 45 points on a Detroit defense, which honestly it's been known to give up points like that, but those haven't necessarily been easy points to come by, especially when you factor in the fact that they haven't had Nathan Hutchinson on that Detroit defense for literally a couple of months now, and they were going to work to try to get him back should they have made it into the Super Bowl. I don't know how likely that would have been, but I guess we'll never really find out now. But it's actually really, really surprising that they got knocked out in the divisional round. Their only game of this 2024 playoffs, well, technically it's 2025 and 2025, but either way, just the fact that they got knocked out in the first game, essentially, is a little bit mind-blowing, and, I don't think any of us quite saw it happening that way. I mean, it was a competitive matchup, but Washington just seemed to have had Detroit figured out, especially Jared Goff, just forcing him into some bad interceptions. I mean, it's just really, really impressive what Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, and the rest of this group have actually been able to accomplish this season. But most notably, Jaden Daniels. I think it's quite clear at this point he's definitely winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year, much to the chagrin of all of us here in Denver. But it's understandable. I mean, number one, he's still in the playoffs, but just the run that he had going into the playoffs just clearly had to have cemented that for him, and now he's going to be going into Philadelphia, where I gotta say, it promises to be a really, really competitive matchup, but I'm not necessarily sure if I see Washington getting out of this one. I think this is potentially about to be Philadelphia's year again. It was looking that way for a long time, and that might actually be holding to form, even with the potential of a rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs, who we're about to talk about here in a moment. But all in all, I just have to say it's definitely a little bit different from what I had expected in terms of who I had going how far, but it certainly is an impressive thing to see, especially with what the Commanders have accomplished in this one particular season. And again, this is only Jaden Daniels' rookie year, so there's that. But we're going to move right along again, talk about the upcoming AFC Championship game, which will be later on in the day this coming Sunday. And of course, that would feature the Buffalo Bills going into Arrowhead to face the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions, as much as it nauseates me to have to say that, but got to. I mean, they've been doing it, and I really hate saying it like this. It actually looks pretty good for them to actually get this three-peat. The Bills are definitely built, and they've shown it on multitudes of occasions. They actually have what it takes to beat the Chiefs. It's just, can they and will they actually do it, especially in the playoffs? And I think this is where it's going to be really, really important to see. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical about it. I believe that they can do it. It's just a matter of will they. And really, the same could actually be said to be true for the Ravens as well, had it ended up being them. Had Mark Andrews actually caught that 2-point conversion. But, again, something we'll never really know in the end. But to me, I went into this saying that I felt like Baltimore was a better team and that they would actually get the win. They weren't able to get that done. I felt like they were better. Like, both of them are going to be built well enough to beat the Chiefs. I just felt like Baltimore was more likely to get it done, but in that same vein, Buffalo actually did beat the Chiefs to where the Ravens couldn't, and that came down to a last-second call where Isaiah Likely's big toe wound up being the difference in that game. But all the same, we'll wind up finding out what the differences are in this one. I feel like you're going to see a really incredibly competitive matchup. I just really and truly hope for the Bills to win it, and if not, I'm thinking we gotta hope for the Eagles. But I'll give my final predictions later on at the end of the week, and we'll go from there on that. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move right along out of the playoff talk into, of course, news broke today. Ben Johnson is now officially your head coach of the Chicago Bears, and I really feel like this is significant for a variety of reasons. Of course, as a Broncos fan, most notably, it's easy to say that, we don't have to deal with him here in the AFC West, but to me, I don't really feel like that would have been so much of a problem. I guess, personally, I'm just of the mindset, I don't see where him with the Raiders would have worked. That's just my personal opinion on that. Maybe there are a lot of things to that I don't know. It's just something about him working under, Mark Davis. I get it, he's not Al Davis, but he's still Al's son, and to me, I don't think he's necessarily going to have as quick a trigger. I mean, hell, he wanted Gruden to stick around, and come to think of it, they're still paying him. Honestly, I don't know how they haven't worked on trying to get him back, although a lot of people are thinking at this point it's probably more likely to end up being Pete Carroll now. We'll see how that goes. But truth be told, to me, it's just something that I don't see how it would have worked out for either side, whether it would have been Johnson as the coach or the Raiders as an organization, especially with a lot of the turmoil that they've been in recent years, and just the fact that they decided to not stick with Antonio Pierce. I guess the biggest question I would have had should he have chose to go to Vegas is how long would that really last? And I can't help but feel like that has to be a question we've got to ask, simply for the fact that, let's just say he finds a way to go into 2025, goes 8-8, but really isn't able to do much more from there. Like, he gets into the playoffs a couple of times, but chances are they probably don't even go anywhere, especially with the AFC as loaded as it is. And I gotta have high hopes as it is for the Broncos, even for as much as things have been improving over the last couple of years under Sean Payton. But, looking at this just with, again, the turmoil that you've seen from said Raiders franchise, I just don't know how it would have gotten better. I think Carroll probably does make a bit more sense, and it was just interesting because I saw a post on Twitter, he'd literally be the oldest of all of the AFC coaches, with Peyton and Harbaugh as the youngest coaches in the division at 61, Andy Reid at 66, and of course if Carroll takes the Raiders job, he'll be taking it as the oldest coach at 73. I mean, maybe something along those lines makes a lot more sense. I don't know why they're not looking more at Aaron Glenn, who I think would be more appropriate for that team, or even though he's likely going to be going to the New York Jets, or maybe even a Robert Saleh. They're looking at him for the Cowboys. Why couldn't the Raiders do that? But anyway, I'm not going to continue anymore with that. that's pretty much all I got there. Y'all know what it is. Let me know what y'all think down below on all these things. And of course, y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. And that's really all I got on that. With that in mind, I thank you for being here. This has been your time with A&J, and I appreciate you spending it here.